Love Lessons, the show where healthy couples come to share their wisdom from the lessons they've learned in love. We discuss everything from money to parenting to social media, and don't leave out stress and sex. Go get your pen and paper because class is now in session. Come catch your blessings. Welcome to Love Lessons, hosted by Trey Kearney.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey. I'm
Hello,
super
Trey.
excited tonight. Hey, I am super excited tonight. I have one of my very favorite couples in the world in the building with me tonight that I have been on this journey with for almost 40 years. And I'm gonna say this, in the 40 years that I've known them, and I've known them through their whole entire marriage, and one thing I could say about one of my very good friends, my core Laura, I have never ever through the journey of their marriage ever heard her say one bad thing about her husband. Ever. Like ever. And I done said some bad things about my exes. But I've learned that throughout my journey that that's not a good thing to do in marriage because I am here to learn and model the behaviors that keep marriage healthy. And when I was thinking about them preparing for this, I said, I have never ever heard Laura say one thing bad about her husband. And it's been a lot of years, and I know couples go through ups and downs, but to keep it in your home and forsake all others speaks volumes about who you guys are as a couple. So welcome Buddy and Laura Harris to the show. Hey guys, I just had to say that.
Amen. Thank you for having us.
This is a
Thank y'all
blessing.
for being here.
This is
Yes,
family.
this is gonna be so good. First, how long have y'all been married?
32 years. This June.
Ooh. Come on, people out here in the world. Y'all need to clap for that. 32 years. People ain't lasting 32 days in relationships, much less marriage. So
well, a lot of people get married and depart for the wrong reasons. When God brings you together, that's a journey that He put together, not us. So He's in the middle of it. So we can't break this up.
Right. Ooh, come on now. So let's start with your blueprint. Tell me a little bit about your parents, how you grew up, about your relationship with your mother and father, and we'll start with ladies first.
So I had my mom and dad. I have one brother, and pretty dysfunctional. You know, we weren't really the solid family. We had some good days. I'm not going to say it was always horrible. We actually lived in a 2-family house. So I had my mother's twin sister, and their entire family lived on the top floor with my maternal grandmother. And then we lived on the bottom floor. So I was always surrounded by family. There was never a time that I didn't have family around us. So, and then we would, you know, the typical Puerto Rican family, we would get together for the roasts, and we would get together and do nights of like dancing and playing cards. I remember my grandmother sitting there at the table with everybody else playing poker. And, you know, those are solid memories I have. I mean, we were dysfunctional, but we were a unit, you know, as crazy as that may sound. But there's definitely, you know, growing up past that, there are definite things that I can reflect on that, you know, sometimes you pick up without knowing you pick it up. And I think we'll touch on that a little later about luggage and baggage that you carry. But there's definite, you know, things that occur when you're in a dysfunctional family that, you know, rears its ugly head when you don't realize it, you know, because there was a lot of side chicking. There was a lot of alcoholism. Yeah, there were a lot of bad habits. So alcoholism, cheating, lying, you know, paycheck would go right to the bar and not to paying rent or food, you know, that sort of thing. And, you know, you're innocent when you're young and you're looking around and you're not thinking, you know, anything is wrong because somehow or another you're still eating. Somehow or another you still have a meal. So it never really dawned on me that there was a problem until I started to get older and realize, you know, they can't hide me in another room and, you know, I'm watching something that's, you know, kind of distracting me from what's going on in the other room. So it was it was definitely, when I look back on it, there was definitely some experiences that I see that impacted me as I became an adult. Um, but it was still, oddly enough, there was still a lot of love, I can say.
Wow. Buddy?
So talk about opposites attract. I was total opposite.
Mhm.
We grew up in a two-family house also in Orange, and I had my mom, dad, my sister, and I had my grandmother lived on the third floor. My aunt lived on the first floor. So we had a house full of love. Both my parents were great. My aunt was great. My grandmother was great. So it was total opposite. We took trips. We did family outings. There wasn't any alcohol issues, money issues, any of those type of things that you would think in a so-called black neighborhood or urban neighborhood growing up. We had wonderful neighbors. Everything worked out fine, So when God put us together, He knew that we needed each other to balance out, and as you know, we got married when we were very young. I was 23, she was 19. So, we grew up together, and that had a positive and negative impact on the rest of our lives. So, growing up and not understanding her situation, her life, and her not understanding mine, it kind of came to a clash at some point.
Connection. Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
So I don't know if you heard what I said. If you have
It come
God.
to a it came to a clash.
Oh, okay. So I said, but it doesn't matter, because if God is in the middle of everything, we always work it out.
Yes.
Did,
Yes.
did you hear the part of how long we've been married and what the ages were?
Yes, I heard all of that.
Okay,
Yep.
good, very good.
The one thing I love that you said is we grew up together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
grew up together. That is very young to get married. A lot of people say don't get married young. What would you guys say to that, to people who say don't get married, tell their children, or just are against getting married young?
I would say it's not for everyone. You really, it's not for the faint at heart. If you have to be willing to put the work in. Marriage is not some book of directions or some magic dust that you sprinkle on top of somebody. You have to be able to put the work in. And we put the work in, and there were times that you know he was stronger than me, and there were times that I may have been stronger than him, but we have to be able to complement each other, and not tear each other down. And that, growing up married, you're learning how to do that,
Mm,
especially for me, when you're coming from a dysfunctional home. There was a lot of criticizing, there was a lot of, tearing down, there was a lot of complaining, there was a lot of condemning. So what I was going to talk about later, I'll just mention now. You have these figurative suitcases that you're packing as you're growing up, and you're witnessing things that you don't even realize becomes a part of you, just because you grew up around it and you learned it, and it became something that you almost look upon as normal behavior. And you're packing that stuff in your figurative suitcase, so then when you end up getting into a relationship, here you have this baggage, and,
mm,
and you have this baggage that you're taking with you. And by what means would anybody tell you that you're wrong if you're thinking, oh, if he ain't home, he's cheating on me? Well,
ooh,
that's what I was used to. That's what I was accustomed to. That you got in the car and you went from bar to bar and you looked for him because that's where he was going to be.
wow.
And when you have that in your suitcase and you don't know any better, to you that's normal. To you that's, being insecure is a part of who you are, because that's
Mm,
what you learn. That's what's in your bag. So if you don't consciously learn when you become that adult and you're in that relationship, that you have to open that suitcase and dump that stuff out, you're just going to keep adding to that suitcase. And, you're gonna be a bag lady
Woo!
Or a bad
Oh,
person.
or a bag
oh
person.
my goodness. Hold on for 1 second.
Sure.
If you just tuned in, you're tuned into Love Lessons, and our instructors, they're ready to start it off with the fire. She said, if you think it's normal, you'll think being insecure is normal. I want people who are listening right now to understand that the lens that you grow up in does affect you, and to just really, really hone in on the point that dysfunction is not normal. No matter how much dysfunction you've been through, no matter how much you've seen your dad cheat, your mother cheat, go to bars, no matter how much you've seen that, it is not normal. It's just you're no normal.
Exactly.
Come on in, buddy.
And that's their life, but we don't have to repeat the cycle. And that's what we brought into our relationship. You know, my father went to work every day, so that's all I knew. You know, I knew how to be a provider. I know how to be, you know, a good father, but I had to work on that husband part, you know, because
Oh,
I was never a husband. He didn't show me how to be a husband. He showed me how to be a provider, you know, how to take care of your children, go to their events, all of those things. Make sure that you went to church on Sundays. But he didn't say, son, when you get married at 23, this is the things that you're going to have to look out for. But, you know, going back to the baggage, when we used to teach couple counseling, you know, I would actually draw a diagram and show them how much baggage that they would be carrying, some good, some bad. But if you don't empty your suitcase with that other person and start with that relationship, then you're going to have issues going into the relationship and subsequent marriage. But you have to understand who you are first.
oh,
You know, that's very important. I used to tell Laura when we were younger, I said, I have to take care of me first. And she never understood my science behind that, because I'm the king of this
mm,
castle. If I fail, everything goes downhill. Everything, the castle crumbles. But she didn't understand that, and I did, because the foundation was placed in me early with my father. Said, listen, you're the king. You're going to have to take care of everything. So I worked, and I took care of. We bought our first house when I was 24, and she was 21 years old. So we had a gift that we wanted to hone in on, and that was making sure that we survived on our own without our parents, did everything our way, and then, you know, under God's you know, watchful eye, and then do the things that needed to be done so that we could be successful in life.
Right. But that's where the balance and the challenge was, right? Because he had that foundation of being that man that provided. And for me, it was, as a wife, you make sure there's food on the table, you know, and you took care of him no matter what. Even if he was out all night, you had to make sure there was food on the table. And that was, I know, from the Latin bringing up of historically, you just made sure there was food on the table, no matter what the situation. And as I started to get older, I started to battle with that, because a part of me was, well, I have to go to work too. And so I can't just sit home and make sure I have a meal. But then he's providing, he's working all day. And then I was like, well, I'm working too. So then I started to come up with not recognizing him as the king, but then starting to challenge with, but I'm putting in 50% too. So why am I being looked on as any less than you are? And that's where there's another battle, because I wasn't recognizing him for who he is and who God made him to be in this relationship. I went from being this innocent, shy, insecure girl to now I'm working. I can bring money into the house. I should have the ability to be just as 50% as you are. And that's not God's word.
mm.
That's
Come on
not what
now.
God's intent is. God's intent is, this is the man of this house. He is the lead of this house. I am his rib, and I am here to support him and to be behind him and to be his support in his back to make sure I got you, babe.
Mm.
And if I'm sitting here trying to, you know, pat my, bump my chest and trying to prove who I am, what exactly is that doing for our relationship? Am I trying to demean him as a man because I have to prove how much of a woman I am? And all that's coming from my background. All that's coming from the history of all the women had to sit meekly in the room and not speak until spoken to type of mentality. And I was all of a sudden, well, I'm not going to do that. That's not who I am. But then I had to
Woo.
use God's word and say, but who does he want me to be? Who am I supposed to be based on my Father's word? Because all of this time I'm running by my flesh. I'm running by what my mom and my daddy showed me and what I got in my suitcase that I brought to this relationship at 19 years old.
Ooh, we empty them.
I had to roll it back and say, wait a minute. If God's leading him and I'm not being led by God, what am I doing?
Wow. Wow.
So,
Ooh,
so
got to
that's
empty them baggage. We got to
that's how
empty
we
them
grow up
bags.
together, though. We learn these things and grow. You know, if you're not learning every day, you're dying. So we found out early that we need to grow together. And by growing together, we went out to dinner, we went to church, we did events with our children together. It was one of those things where you have to be in this 100%. And were there always good days? Absolutely not. But were there always bad days? Absolutely not. So we have to, going back to your original question, you have to seek God's approval for this marriage. If he brought you together, you could have met online. But if he brought you together, it'll work. If he's not in the middle of your situation, it's not the foundation that's going to be considered marriage. So you have to understand who you are first. They have to understand who they are. And if you come together understanding who you are and how you would be together as a unit, because this is a business right here. This is just not marriage. This is just, it's nowhere in God's word that says when you get married that you're going to be happy. Mm-hmm. This is a business deal right here that God put together for us to not even be together for ourselves. It was going to be other people behind us that we had to take care of. So once you understand that, you got to take your flesh out of the happiness and the rainbows and all that kind of stuff. You understand who you were placed here to be. You find out your why, and then you can understand your truth of what you're going to do next in your life, and how you can connect in a marriage and make it successful. How you could be that power couple as that quote unquote power couple that people want to be. We don't seek out to be the power couple. We just do what God tells us to do.
Amen.
Ooh, wait, come on. The instructors is instructing tonight. If you just tuned in, you tuned in to Love Lessons. We are here with Buddy and Laura Harris. They are our guest instructors tonight, and they didn't instruct it. If you ain't got your pen and paper, go run and get it right now because you need it. We are here to help you maintain, sustain, and remain in healthy relationships with healthy couples who have some skin in the game. So my next question would be, are there deal breakers? Should divorce ever be an option?
No.
No.
No, divorce is not an option. And you can allow your flesh to lead you, but that's not the answer. You're going to go through trials, and that's no matter what, you're going to go through trials. But if you're reading the word, you can't believe just every other scripture. You can't just believe, one book and forget the other one. If you're going to go look at Proverbs 3:5 that says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, are you going to do it? Or are you only trusting him for a few things?
Okay.
So you have to make up your mind. Where's your faith? And faith without works is dead.
Totally dead.
So if you're going to believe in something, and when we believed in this marriage, when we got through our first 10 years, and it was hard, he was in a profession that had him out all the time dealing with, everybody and anybody. And that was something I had to adjust to. And especially for somebody coming from a background who was insecure and who was just so accustomed to infidelity. That's what you expect when you're dealing with somebody in a profession that you're dealing with people all the time, and so I got to a point after we were married 10 years, and I remember the day vividly, and I just asked God, please just soften my heart, because I was just so wrapped up in my flesh with who's he talking to? Where is he? Wanting to go, scout around the town that he worked in just to see where he was, like doing just crazy stuff. Like, why is my energy taking me this way when that's not God's way for my life? Because I let my flesh drive me.
Wow.
I let my flesh take control. And that was the absolute top priority for me to satisfy my flesh. And so long as you're living by your flesh, you're not living by the word.
Wow.
And so long as you're not living by the word, you're going to understand things are going to happen. And then you should not be shocked at things that happen.
Right.
Right. And two, you know, like you said, your background, our background, I come from a dysfunctional background too, very dysfunctional. My parents wasn't together. But our background will lead us to self-sabotage because I'm going to prove
Mm-hmm.
that he's doing something
Mm-hmm.
because this is what happens when somebody's not home. So I'm
At
gonna go be the
any cost.
FBI, the
Yep.
CIA. I'm gonna make sure that this happens. If
Mm-hmm.
even if I gotta run him to do it, because
Right.
I need to prove that this is what is normal. So
Right.
this is so good,
Right.
buddy.
And you know what happens? You end up making up the scenario in your head.
Yeah.
So you plant the whole thing from beginning to end just by pieces that you're picking up because you're so convinced this is a scenario. And because you're convinced of it, you create the whole thing and you can probably just read it to him as if he was there.
Woo.
And a
Woo.
lot of that was, my flesh was just on fire because I was determined to prove to him he was doing me wrong.
Mm.
I was determined because that's who I was. And that's not who God intended me to be. And I was burning my own energy and driving myself crazy and not being my best me. And that's when I knew I had to change. And part of what I learned was, getting married at 19, and there were characteristics of Buddy that I absolutely adored before we got married, which actually attracted me to him. I can't take those characteristics after we get married and then say, these are the things that really piss me off about you right now, because I don't like them. So you need to stop being so nice to people. You need to stop helping people because these are the things that I loved about you and attracted me to you. But now we're married, so you need to stop.
Woo!
So I'm basically trying to change his DNA, change who he is as a person because I'm uncomfortable. That's not why God brought you to marriage. He didn't bring you to marriage for you to change somebody. If he needed to change as a husband, God needed to change him. And that's the only time he would change.
Jesus.
Well, and that was actually even if you're not wrong, you're wrong because you're the leader of the family. So if anything's going wrong with her, it's going wrong because it's my fault, So I had to take a look in the mirror and say, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better? So at that point, we started a men's group and we had to chat. We had to talk. We had to do Bible study. We had to understand who we were even deeper than what I already knew. So, and believe me, I wasn't no holy roller, even though I used to go to church every Sunday. I used to sit in the back of the church and we, just sit there to occupy space sometimes. But then as you grow older, you understand, why am I doing this? Why am I here? Why are we married? Why are we have children? So all of these whys are coming into focus of your destiny. If I die tomorrow, my life was a failure because that means that I died without actually having somebody to mentor and to bring up the next me. There should be 10 buddies behind me. And my life is not going to be a failure because I do have 10 buddies behind me. We do have 10 lawyers behind her because we are not satisfied with just our relationship. We are mentoring other people. We're mentoring our children, our family, and we are servant leaders in our church. And that has a positive impact on not just our community and our church, but the entire world. Because you never know where that one person is going to go to make an impact somewhere else.
Right.
Woo-wee. Y'all are killing it tonight. I love y'all. I'm just gonna say I love y'all. And I don't know all the stuff about y'all, right? I mean, because we talk, but we don't have these intimate conversations where we talk about stuff like this, where we get deep. But I just honor y'all marriage for being an example from 19 years old to the growth to serving, because we are here to serve. That is our purpose here on this planet. And so many people get to a point where you own a house, you guys are doing good, where they get selfish to, well, I'm good, so hey, I don't care about nobody else. But to see y'all operate in your community, in your church, is refreshing, and it is a pathway for more people to say that just because we're in church doesn't mean we don't have a good life. Just because we're in church doesn't mean we don't have fun. just because we're in church doesn't mean we don't enjoy ourselves, because that's what people look at when you're in church. You don't get to have fun. Church, yes, you do. Like, people are so, messed up with that.
Right. And a lot of it comes from back in the days when they're used to what church used to be and how it used to be back then. If you praising God, you can't go out and have a glass of wine. That's not the case.
That's not the case
That's
at all.
not the case.
God wants us to be blessed here on earth as in heaven, So we have to understand that he wants us to have a great life, because this might be the only life that time we go around, So in people want to put people, Christians or people of God, in a box, and that's not the case. Just like everybody that you think is black is not black, and everybody that you think is white is not white. So that is no box that people can fit in. We are men and women of God. We don't want to call ourselves Christians or this or that, or no. We belong to the Most High God that we serve. That's who we are. Does it come with Christ? Of course it comes with Christ, but we also have evolved in understanding the beginning of who we were, as a people, as a tribe, and where we come from, so there's always deeper levels that we can go to the Most High with. And with that, we can better our relationship and further our relationship, because then we can go to the Bible, we can get the book, and I can ask her questions and she has an opinion on it, and then we can bounce things off of one another, and that's how you have a healthy relationship.
Right. Yes. How do y'all deal with money, finance? Some people is mine is mine, is hers, what's ours is ours. Some people, how do y'all deal with finances in your marriage?
I'm retired. I'm retired 2 years now. I don't take any money from my pension check. The money goes to the house. That's it. I have my own business, and we fix up houses, we buy houses, but that's my money now. Money has never been a big issue in this house, because we have to live with it. We can't live without it. But we're not going to be fighting over pennies, over, one of the things that Jesus said was, give what to Caesar is Caesar's, and give what to God is God. We give of our talents, our time, and our treasures up to him. So he's always going to provide for us, so that money is not an issue in this house. And there's times that there's not enough money in the month, but we never go without.
Amen.
We got cars in the driveway. We got food in the refrigerator. We got a beautiful home here. Our kids went to college, all of that stuff. But we don't base our life off of finances. That's where people go wrong in their marriage, because if money is going to be the breakup, then you weren't as solid as your relationship as you thought you were, because money should never be the root of it.
Right. It's just a resource. It's a resource.
He is our source.
Amen.
He gives us the resources to deal with things here on earth, but money should never be an issue. If you get up and you can go to work, you should never have an issue with finances.
I know that's right. So we always ask this question to couples, because I love to hear the different answers. How do you guys deal with opposite sex friends? So do you have female friends, Buddy? Do you have male friends, Laura? Are you comfortable with Laura getting advice from a male friend? How do you deal with opposite sex friends?
That's obviously something I had to grow up to learn, coming from the background that I came from and the suitcases that I had a hard time with Buddy having female friends. And that was my insecurity in not believing who I was, and that I was enough. I always looked at myself as less than. I always looked at myself as, wanting to cower down in the corner. And so I had to build my confidence in order to understand and trust that my husband knows that line of demarcation. And he can manage his friendships. He can manage the female friends that he has. Being in the profession that he was in, it's almost, inevitable that he was going to have female friends, female, peers and things like that, or, people that were above him. So I had to learn what my issue was with that, because if I were able to trust myself, having a male friend or having, and when we talk about friends, there are different levels,
Right.
You're my friend. You know what I mean? That's what I call a friend. You're my core. There are people that I know,
Associates,
people that I can say hello to. How are you? How's your day? That sort of thing. But a friend is something different. A friend is a different level. You know what I mean? And so that's a very select group for us, individually and collectively. That's a very select group. So we have plenty of people, that we know, but we have a very select group of friends.
and I don't have a problem with her having male friends because I know that I'm more than enough, and that's the confidence that I have as a king, and if she ever decided to leave me, it wasn't because of me, because I know that I take care of everything in my house. And that's the type of confidence that a man needs to have, a king needs to have in his household. And he needs to instill that into his queen, that you are enough. I tell all the time, you are enough. Be enough. I'm home every night. Be enough. You don't have to worry about who I'm talking to on the phone or a friend or something like that, because it's not crossing the line. We don't have to go there. I have a lot of friends, but I have a lot of associates, and the associates, they don't get that time. They don't get that buddy time like a friend would get, because a friend, I would loan a friend money, but I wouldn't loan an associate money. So that's the type of the friendship that we have in our relationships. And again, it comes back to security. And we're past that stage. And yeah, it was some times where we probably wouldn't want each other to have male friends or female friends, but we're in a stage in our lives that we know who we are.
Woo-wee. He said, I'm more than enough. I'm a king. I ain't even worried about nobody else. Okay,
Nor
well,
does he have to, and I don't either. So I'm not scared.
well, okay. If you just tuned in, you tuned into Love Lessons. We got Buddy and Laura Harris, our guest instructors. And if you just tuned in, you need to go back and watch this whole thing, because they have really dropped some gems tonight on how to be in a healthy relationship. And again, they have not have had problems before in their relationship. They're clear on that. They went on with some bumpy roads, but they got over them in a healthy way. So how do you fight fair? So how do you deal with anger when you're upset? How does that dynamic work out in your home?
I think, you have to give each other time, there's no magic potion to it. You have to give each other time. And if that's an ability to just, take a minute, go in another room, because a lot of times right away, your flesh wants to, if you're having a conversation, your flesh wants to defend, right? And so part of what I always say, number one, is when you're having a conversation or a disagreement, if my response is coming to you before you finish your question, or right when you finish your question, I wasn't listening to you, because I prepared my response by the second word of your sentence. So communication is key, but not in anger, because if you're going to be angry and trying to have a discussion, something you say is not going to be right, because what is your intent with what you're saying? Am I wanting to hurt you? Am I wanting you to hear my point, so I'm not hearing your point? So we're going to continue to disagree because we're talking past each other. So a lot of times you have to give yourself a minute to just take a step back, and if you've heard their point, if I heard his point or he heard my point, just marinate on it for a minute. Like, you don't have to try and resolve it within the 2 minutes or 3 minutes that you're fussing back and forth. You're both upset. You're not going to really get anywhere. And, like I always say to him, I'm not going to set him up, and I don't want him to set me up. So, for example, I'm not going to, in the back of my mind, say to myself, I know if I leave that toilet seat up, he's not going to put it down. So I'm going to purposely go and put that toilet seat up. So if he don't put it down, now I'm going to be mad. Well, I already set my expectation up that I know he's not going to put it down. So I'm already setting him up. So don't set your spouse up to fail. Don't set your spouse up with an expectation that you're not revealing. And then right away, if the outcome is exactly what you expected, then you're surprised. Well, why would you be surprised? That's what you expected.
there's only a few things that would actually really get me mad and upset anyway. So we try to avoid those things. You know, I'm not one of those chauvinistic guys that I can't wash the dishes or clean the refrigerator out, take the garbage out. I do those things. You know, when our kids were growing up, I used to make them breakfast and lunch. I used to write on their little lunch bags and everything. That's who we are. We're in this. It's a relationship. It's a partnership. It's a foundation for a place of love and happiness that we could build. You know, you don't come into it. Giggles and all that kind of stuff and lovebirds. But then when you start buying a house and you start having kids, it's time to put in some work. You know, but that's the time that you build. And if you build on a solid foundation, everything above it is going to work out a lot easier. Not saying that it's going to be the best, not saying that you're not going to have hard times or you're not going to have crying nights, but you're going to do and be better than your parents if you put in the work.
Right.
That's so good.
You certainly don't want to be, trying to, get a one up or always trying to say, well, I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier because I don't think he got my point or anything like that. It's, you have to be able to communicate your thoughts, talk about what's bothering you. And, I think one of the things that we realize and recognize is that sometimes you can unfortunately get to a point where you become complacent because life happens, and when you're in the midst of life, sometimes you don't pay attention to, what, I should really have, paid attention to him tonight, or we should have done something different tonight, because you're just like, oh, I'm tired from work, or I'm tired from this, and I'm tired from that. Sometimes you just got to roll that back a minute and say, you know what, I don't care, I put in 9 hours or whatever the case is. We need to go and do something. We need to go and hang out, or we need to go, spend a special evening or a special night together, something along those lines. Like, don't lose sight of what you have before you with life.
Wow. Don't lose sight of what you have before you with life. Don't lose sight of what you have before you with life. Somebody needed to hear that tonight. That's a whole hashtag and a tweet.
Yeah, I was going to say somebody needs to tweet that one.
Somebody needs to tweet that one. That one was good. I gotta go back and listen to that a few times. Mm-hmm. So you guys have been together forever. And I know that people go and they take vows, right? Through sickness and in health, through the good times and the bad, through richer and poorer. And I know that you've been through all of this. And I know you guys have dealt with grief. How have you guys managed? There's been a lot of grief because I've been in your life for a long time. So I know there's been loss that you've gone through together, mothers, fathers, sisters, friends, uncles, aunts. How have you guys navigated through grief without falling away from each other?
Well, when we were younger, it was tough. I didn't really know loss. We really didn't, even neither one of us knew loss at an early age. But it started with my sister when she was murdered, and we had to deal with that growing up. It kind of put a wedge between us, but she didn't understand me, and because she didn't understand me, it kind of pushed me away from her and I pushed her away from me because the relationship wasn't balanced. But after we resolved that case, it came back into balance. And that was only because of God brought us back into balance. Now, we deal with loss differently now because we know who we are and whose we are and who we serve. And we have a loss in the family. Yeah, it's heartbreaking, but we know that person is going to be either in a better place or in a place where we don't have to be concerned. So we know who our family members are and the people that we lose, where they're going to go and what's going to happen to them. A lot of them are in pain and they're suffering. We don't want to hold them here. So we when my father passed away, I told him, I said, Dad, if you struggling and to keep yourself here for us, you don't have to. I said, I got the family. And he shed a tear because he couldn't speak, and he went on. So we can't hold people here because of our feelings. we know that we don't belong to each other. We know that we belong to God, and we have to remember our salvation is going to be on our own also. I can't help her with her salvation. She can't help me with mine. So that's how we deal with loss. And you know what? We are also, again, leaders in the church. So we have to be that person that people can come to and help a person through loss. So if we know how to deal with it on our own, then we will be able to help other people. So,
and we know that, joy is going to come in the morning,
mhm.
and like I said before about believing in the word, when joy is going to come in the morning, you're going to go through your sorrow. And that initial, what we had to go through with his sister, that was devastating. And I wanted to be there for him, but didn't recognize at that young age that he needed to be alone. He needed to be on his own. He needed to be able to deal with his grief in his own way. And I couldn't handle that. It was hard for me because I wanted to be there for him, but I didn't know how to comfort him because I'd never experienced death, let alone a murder. So it was hard for me to understand how to be there for him. I didn't know how. And so part of that was I needed to understand that that space was needed. And so I had to give it to him, no matter how much that hurt me. And that was part of my growth too, because, she wasn't my sister, she was my sister-in-law. And certainly the devastation for him was far more deep than for me, but I didn't know how to make it right. And I didn't, and I think I hurt more for not knowing how to make it right. And that's where that's where I needed to grow, to understand, making it right for him was just giving him space. And that was making it right.
And Trey, we spoke about it before when we did an interview of how devastating it was. It wasn't, like this was some random murder. This was from the hands of her husband. So, not only did I lose a sister, but I lost a brother also. So it was 10 times worse for me and our family. Plus I was already in law enforcement and everybody pointed the finger at me like, what are you going to do now? What's our next move? Not only did we lose people, but now we also gained 3 children because Laura and I, we had our own children, but now we had to take on Robin's kids as well. They didn't physically stay with us most of the time, but we had to provide for them spiritually, financially, mentally. We had to do a lot of things. And, thank God they're still with us to this day. We're still in communication with them. They're very, very close to us. So, the bonds of family is strong if you keep them strong.
Wow. This is so good. This is so good. Let's talk about being equally yoked because people get all crazy when we talk Bible or when we even mention stuff. And I mean equally yoked, not just in marriage, but equally yoked in the people that you have around you. What is your take on being equally yoked in this life?
I think for me, we can have several definitions of what equally yoked is for us. I think, when I look upon my support system, I look at who I know is going to help bring me up. I look at who's going to surround me to want me to be better, and he does the same. And he's grown through that where he's recognized who he's around, who does that for him as well, spiritually, emotionally, and so I think that we've learned to come to the table like-minded. And with that, we want to be around like-minded people. If we're going out, I don't want to be in the presence of someone who's embarrassed because we're going to pray before we eat. I want to be around someone who's going to appreciate that and join us because you know what? You're blessed just like we are. And we need to be grateful and thankful. And so I think when we think about being equally yoked, I think we've both come to that point in life where we want to be around those types of people who are very like-minded, who understand and appreciate not only are we still goal oriented at the age that we are, retired or not, we still have goals. And just like he said, we learn every day and strive to learn every day and surround ourselves with people who are that same way, and that's part of why I'm so proud that you are one of my best friends, because the ministries that you have and the platforms that you have and the things that Anita are a part of and Gibi are a part of and Ann, I'm proud to say that's my core. You know what I mean? Because it's uplifting. And not only that, it's something that I want to wear on my chest, that these are the people that help me stay grounded. These are the people that help me be proud that God uses me as a vessel. And I can hear that still small voice at any given moment to call up anybody and say, I have a word for you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And he's the same way. It doesn't take him but a second to pick up the phone and minister to somebody. So I think it was a long time coming, but I would say that we are equally yoked.
Oh, we've always been equally yoked, but people think equally yoked means so many different things, but realistically, this is the way people could easily look at it. When you go out to eat and you divide the check up, if it's if it's 6 people and you divide it up, that's equally yoked. You're bringing something to the table, and you're not going to leave anybody holding the bag with anything. That's the people that we want to be around. Whether it could be a 20-year-old kid, we can't look at our age group and say I need somebody equally yoked at my age. No, I could learn from anybody. And there has been younger people that have come with great ideas and understanding and wisdom, and they brought something to the table. And you know what? They came to the conversation equally yoked, and our marriage has been equally yoked from the beginning. Finances, again, did not make us uneven. We were equally yoked because God brought us together.
Wow.
Did I say unevenly yoked? Or we were yeah. So, we always understand, that we need to have people around us that are like-minded, and we can have some people that's here in the word and some people that's here in the word. But if they can understand and bring some wisdom to the table, we'll always even out and be equally yoked.
Wow.
So I don't know if sorry for cutting you off. I don't know if you heard, but the doorbell, my family just came in a little while ago and the dog was barking. But my cousins just came here. We hang around people who are closer than a brother, I mean, because we have to be on the level of equally yoked people. They are equally yoked. So they drive over 100 miles to come down to our house, and we go out to dinner because we need to know who we need to be around,
Yes.
and we need to know who we need to mentor, all of these different things,
Yes. I love this so much. Buddy, what do men need?
Realistically, men need vision, and wisdom. Solomon was a great king because he had wisdom. Only thing he asked God for was wisdom, and the other thing is vision. Men without vision really doesn't have a place. So once you understand who you are, and men are kings, women are queens, our kids are princess and princes. And once we understand who we are in the relationship and hierarchy on the pole that we call life, and doing this thing with the Most High and His Son and the Holy Spirit, and then us, we can get through any single thing that we need to get through.
Laura, what do women need?
Women need to understand how to appreciate the man for who they are. I think you have to understand as a woman God's intended place for you. And that is, if you have a good man, recognize it and appreciate that. Now, if you're in a relationship where, there's not a partnership and there's not a good give and take there, then, that's another story. And you have to pray on that and then understand exactly what your plans God has for you. But, you have to listen to that still small voice. And a lot of people say, well, something told me. That something is your still small voice. If you're driving down the street and something's telling you to turn left instead of right, that's your spirit. That's your spirit telling you. And you have to listen to your spirit. You have to connect and listen to your spirit. And all it takes is for you just to stop what you're doing, be completely still, and just allow him to use you. And you'll hear it. And you will hear your spirit speaking to you and telling you and directing you on what it is he's intending for you to do.
What advice would you give to couples who are about to walk down the aisle right now?
Get to know each other before you go into marriage. You know, really, we're not supposed to be shacking up prior to getting married anyway. But if you take the time out to actually get to know somebody and become friends first, the marriage will last. You know, because then nothing could break up a friendship. You know, but a lot of people just jump into it for the wrong reasons, because somebody might make a little bit more money, somebody might have some better curves or something like that. But all of that stuff can fade away. I used to have hair. I don't have it anymore. You know, so if you're in a relationship for the right reasons, then, you know, first of all, you got to keep God in the center of your life. That's number one. You keep God in the center of your marriage, then you can actually have a successful marriage. And I'm not saying that if you're in the church or if you're not a man or a woman of God that you might not get divorced, because things happen. But if you have those principles that he's the head of your household, he's the lead of your life, and you allow the Holy Spirit to usher into your relationship and then your marriage, you can be fine. But you need to know who you are first. A lot of people just get into a relationship because they want to get out of their parents' house, or they want to get out of this situation, or they just want to do it because everybody else is getting into it. Find out who you are. Set yourself up for success and not failure.
Yeah, and I would say that, like he said, you know, having God in it is very important, because it's necessary to know you're going to go through times. You know, it's not always peaches and cream. You know, we weren't always the happiest, but keep your business in your house. You know, you can have the best of friends, but there are just things that don't need to be talked about outside of your home. There are things that don't need to be shared with everybody. You know, I can, you know, have plenty of stories. He got plenty of stories, but, you know, it's not always necessary for you to take it out of your house for somebody to give an opinion on something that they can't impact.
Right.
That they have no part of.
So women, let me just give you a little tidbit. Never tell your best friend or any of your girls about stuff that you and your man do or have done in your household, good or bad. If he's getting on your nerve or he's the best sex partner you ever had, don't share that information, because as bad as women think men are, women are 10 times worse.
Woo!
You know, we have to understand that you keep your business in your house and you have a successful marriage, or a better chance at keeping a successful marriage.
Everybody don't have to know your business.
No.
Woo-wee, ladies, stop telling your girl that your man is good in bed. She looking between his legs. That's what Buddy just said.
Yeah.
He said women, and I'm saying is women. Listen, women cheat too. Okay, so I'm not judging. I ain't judging. I did it, and women cheat too. And we got to be really mindful of that. That we do things that men do too. And in this day and age now, women are justifying it. Well, men do it, and so keep your man in your own house and keep your mouth shut unless you want some trouble. Unless you want to put a crack in your door.
That's it.
Right.
Nobody, everybody else's opinion, it shouldn't have an impact on what you're doing in your house. You need to work it out in your house.
What would you guys say to couples who are troubled in their marriage and they just ready to I'm just done. I'm throwing in the towel.
Get counseling. Get counseling. Men need other men to talk to, and most men don't talk to other men, and that's a big problem. You know, when we have issues, we try to go solve our problems with alcohol or something like that, or going out and seeking another woman. No, you go talk to a brother that could help you, that's been in a situation, that's had some issues in his marriage, that's going to give you the right advice, and then you could be strong. Most men today, especially today, don't know who they are in the position that they need to have in their household. You know, just from the 1950s and beyond, or later than that, they were we had the most married couples anywhere in the world. So because we at one point we were always married, and then the 1960s came in, the 50s and the 60s came in with free love and all that kind of stuff. People started, shacking up and not getting married. But prior to that, we stayed married because we talked to one another. Yeah, the two men might have went out to the bar and they straightened everything out and they told them go back home and kiss your wife and go tuck your kids in, and they did it. But men got away from that. So if we can get back to we run men's groups, and we let the men know that they're kings and the hierarchy of the house and what position that they should take. Because you can't call yourself a king if you're sitting on the couch watching soap operas or reality shows and your wife is out working. It doesn't work like that. You have to be the king of that house. And I'm not saying that you can't be unemployed, but if you're unemployed and you're still not taking a rightful position, then something's wrong. You're not a true man. And that's what men need. We need to be in communion with each other. We need to talk. We need to get each other straightened out. We started Bible study on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to talk about the Hebrew Bible. You got to take time out. We get up early in the morning. We get up at 5:30 in the morning to read the Bible. It's not going to fall in your lap. You got to go out and seek it.
Mm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And counseling is important because, if you're in a situation and you're not feeling as though there's any resolution, staying in that situation without trying to seek somebody to give you some guidance and help, it's not going to help. It's not going to work. So, when that like-mindedness comes back into play, when you're seeking somebody that's like-minded and you're going to them saying, I'm having some issues and I just really could use some guidance. We had a lot of couples here when we were doing our couples conference, and it was a blessing for us, for Buddy and I, to be used as vessels, but also an opportunity for us to be able to really help people see a different perspective that they might not have seen. Because when you're in the midst of it, and especially when you're feeling as though there's no out, then you're not trying to find a resolution. Because you pretty much close the door. You pretty much are done with, I've made my mind up because he's not hearing me or she's not listening to me. So you pretty much have shut the door on trying to resolve things and not trying to hear another opinion. And the person that you're arguing with, even if they say the same thing 5 different times, you're not going to hear it because you're done. So that's almost just like I was saying before. If I'm answering your response before you even finish, I didn't hear anything you just said because I already prepared my response while you were talking.
Wow.
So it's big for somebody to be able to try to seek somebody else out, like-minded people, so that you can try and get out the things that you're feeling like, what, it's bottled up now. We're not communicating. We're speaking at each other. Nobody's hearing each other.
And let me say this also. If you talk to a person and they say, man, leave her, don't worry about it, she ain't doing the right thing, that's not the person to talk to, because that's not what God wants for us. Go talk to that person that's going to say, listen, it's your fault. Let's sit down. Let's write everything out. How can we make this better? And that's what we need. That's the person that you need to be around.
Wow.
You need to be around that person who's going to throw that other person underneath the bus. And we don't need a couch partner. We don't need that buddy. We need that person that's going to straighten us out, especially as men.
Woo. Get you somebody that's going to hold you accountable for your part.
That's right.
That's why I love coaching, because my coach used to be like, no, we're not talking about it. We're talking about what about you?
Right.
What about you? We're not talking about nobody else. You here for coaching. We're not about to talk about everybody else, what they did, what they said, what about you? Let's look at your part in this.
Yep.
I love I love that so much. And Buddy said something that is so good for all of us. Get you some man that's gonna say, go have your drink, go home to your wife, get you some girlfriends that's gonna say, have your glass of wine, and go home to your husband. Because
Right.
people out here, misery loves company. And
Absolutely.
sometimes we go into the wrong people
Mhm.
and getting the wrong advice. And then
Mhm.
we land in the bed fighting with our spouse or fighting with people, even people in general,
Right.
based on the opinion of somebody who don't have anything good to say. So we
Exactly.
need to really be careful who's in our ear.
Exactly.
So go ahead, buddy.
Especially if you have children, because once you have children, it's not about you anymore. Now you have somebody that you need to raise and you need to bring up the right way. So if you think that you're going to fight and have all of these issues because it's about y'all, it's not about you anymore. Once God gives you a gift of a child, now the light is off of you and it's pointed on that child or those children. So now you have to think, all right, what is going to be the best thing for them? Not for us, for them. And sometimes we used to have arguments about the kids and stuff like that, but it wasn't about us. It was about them because all the attention was on them at that point. So we have to understand our role. And it always goes back to our role. What are we doing in life? And if you don't, if I say if people are having issues in their households, go read Proverbs, because Proverbs doesn't have any stories. It's about wisdom, wisdom, wisdom. So
We
Amen.
gon' we gonna leave y'all with that.
Amen.
Everybody, your homework assignment, everybody, not even if you have problems in your house.
Mhm.
Everybody, your homework is to read Proverbs. I don't care if you're Christian, Baptist, Buddhist,
Mhm.
whatever you are, and you're listening right now, go read Proverbs today. And we can have a conversation about that. So I want to give y'all some final thoughts. What would you like your final thought to be? What would you like someone listening right now to hear from you?
I would say if you listen to this or have listened to this, take all of this to just mean that we're just normal people and really living day by day, loving each other. I mean, he's my rock. He's taught me a lot, and be okay with that. Don't let pride get in your way, trying to make you think, he's my husband. He can't teach me anything. Oh, absolutely, he can. Be open to it. Be open minded, and just understand that we live by God, and read the word and believe the word, and don't skim through pieces that you think are fitting for you, and the other pieces really don't apply.
Mm.
Be humble. And when you read Proverbs 3:5, one of my favorites, trust in the Lord with all your heart. And when you believe that, you'll have a testimony like we have.
So
Buddy.
my final words are: we're not a product of ourselves. We're a product of many, many people. A lot of great people in our lives, and we are surrounded with a good group of people right now, all the way from sinners to saints, and we love them all because that's who make us. We are a product of our not just our parents, but of our churches that we've ever attended, our family, our children. So just be confident in yourself and in life, and do the things that God gives you. Use your time, your talent, and your treasures very wisely. And just stay humble, like Laura said. Stay humble, and have your spouse be your confidant and your person that you need to go to before you need to go outside the house. Have your conflicts taken care of inside before you go outside the house.
Mm. I love it. I just want to say thank you so much, Buddy and Laura. You have really dropped some gems tonight, and you have to come back because I know you have so much more stuff to say, and I have so many more questions, but we will be mindful of the time. So,
Yes.
thank you everyone for tuning into Love Lessons. Remember, happy spouse, happy house. I'll
Amen.
see you
Amen.
next time.
Amen.
Blessings, Trey.